Hi everyone. Welcome to our presentation today. My name is Sally Aluso, and my co-presenter is Omar Abdullahi Balarabe. Today we're going to be presenting on our policy proposal. The title of our policy is Curriculum Internationalization at Ohio University, and this is being done through the Office of Global Affairs and International Studies. So just to give you a brief overview of our presentation, we plan on starting with an introduction, which are going to talk about why we think this policy is relevant to Ohio University and how it ties to the vision statement of Ohio University. We'll talk about the strategic framework for globalization at Ohio University, which is the framework that birthed the whole idea of globalization of the curriculum at Ohio University. Then we'll get into the specifics and define what we mean by internationalization of the curriculum, why it's significant, and then we'll also discuss the framework for internationalization of the curriculum and what you're kind of going to be using as we design this policy. And then we'll compare what Ohio University is doing in terms of internationalization of the curriculum and what other institutions around the US are doing in terms of internationalization of the curriculum. And so Ohio University, the vision statement of Ohio University reads that Ohio University aims to be among the nation's best transformative learning communities, where students realize their promise, faculty advance knowledge, staff achieve excellence, and alumni become global leaders. And so when you look at the last part of that vision statement, where they're talking about preparing alumni, both undergraduates and at the graduate level, to become global leaders and global citizens, it means that the university is committed to equipping the learners with the right knowledge and skills and competencies so that they can function in the current global world. And so when we look at Ohio University and the history of Ohio University, for a long time, Ohio University did not have like a specific blueprint plan on how they intended on going about achieving this particular part of the vision. And so in 2013, President Davis decided to create a team that was going to help put up together a plan on advancing the global strategy of Ohio University. And so the team was led by the Vice Provost of Global Affairs and International Studies, L.J. Edmonds. And so in my conversation with L.J. Edmonds, she talked about how coming up with the whole strategic plan took 2 years, and they interviewed over 2,000 people, alumni, students, administrators, and faculties, stakeholders from like regional campuses of Ohio University and all over the world on what they thought would be the goal of a globalized institution. And so after that, they came up with the strategic framework for globalization at Ohio University. So when you look at the strategic framework for globalization, it has a global vision, a global mission, and the overall output, like the intention, the goal of doing this is to prepare graduates who have the potential of being global leaders. In this strategic framework, they identified 4 pillars that would help them achieve this global mission. And so they had education, research, and creativity as one of the pillars, mobility of knowledge and experience, diversity of campus life, relations, and profiles. And so today, we're just going to focus on one of the pillars, one aspect of the pillars so the pillar we're focusing on is education, research, and creativity. And you're going to be looking at how education, research, and creativity is helping create a global institution at Ohio University. And specifically, we'll be talking about the global curriculum at Ohio University. So the overall global academic mission is to have a global curriculum, global research, global mobility, and global network. So our presentation today focuses on the global curriculum aspect of this overall global academic mission of Ohio University. So I'm going to pass the presentation to Omar, who's going to guide us into the second part of the presentation, which is defining what we mean by an internationalized curriculum.
Okay, thank you very much, Sally, for introducing us to this concept. We thought it is very, very important for us at least to define what we mean by internationalization of the curriculum. We thought it would help give a context to our reviewers and anyone who would have the chance to go through our policy. And internationalization of the curriculum is, per the definition we found, is the process of incorporating international, intercultural, and global dimensions into the content of the curriculum, as well as the learning outcomes, assessment tasks, teaching method, and support services of a program of study. So as such, when you look at this definition, I think it is holistic in its nature, and understanding that the curriculum itself needs to incorporate some cross-cultural communication, some international dimensions to it, just so it's facilitate the process of internationalization. It's very important, and this definition has been provided by Lisk in his article that he published in 2015 that we've used we use in developing and coming up with our policy. Can we move to the next slide? So we also thought that it's important that at least we tell our readers, why do we decide, why internationalize the curriculum? Why is it important to internationalize the curriculum in such an era? So what I would like to start with here is to really say that we do firmly believe that internationalization of higher education in general is an inevitable process in the era of globalization. And this should be a deliberate strategy for improving both quality and relevance of higher educations. Specifically, this is relevant and this is important because in a world that is increasingly globalized, it's very important to prepare a generation of students for professional practice and equip them with 21st century relevant skills. University are training graduates who would join the global force, and it's very, very important for this student at least to be equipped with this set of skills. It also will help develop graduates who will become active and critical and engaged global citizens. We also think that this will meet the need of an increased number of international students in classes. Today, there is a high mobility of international students across the world. So it's very, very important for higher education to adapt and cater to for their needs. And it's also in compliance with many post-secondary institutions' vision statements. As Sally has explained when she was reading the vision statement of Ohio University, we have a part that specifically touches on the global strategy of Ohio University. So we move to the next slide. Really, we thought also to have a bedrock and also provide a framework as how we plan to go about our policy of internationalization of the curriculum. And we are adopting the 5-stage process developed by Lisk in the same article that I talked about earlier enough, and it has 5 stages. And the first stage is review and reflect. The second one is imagine. We have a third stage of the process that revise and plan, and then from revise and plan we move to act, and then the evaluation stage. Next. So to dig a bit deeper into the 5 stages, we thought also it's important that at least we clarify some point regarding these 5 stages, but the visual also was helpful. We thought it would be helpful for a reader to see at least a visual and how the process itself works. But to be a bit more specific, review and reflect really focuses on questions guiding the process of internationalization of the curriculum. And at this point, or at this stage of process, the relevant question is that we will be asking is, to what extent is Ohio University curriculum internationalized? Moving on to the second stage, which is Imagine, we will be focusing on the process of the internationalization of the curriculum. And the critical question here will be, what other ways of thinking and doing are possible for Ohio University once we identify what Ohio University has in terms of policy, what they're doing in terms of internationalizing the curriculum. So the imagine stage is very important because it takes into account the role of academic staff and disciplines. And at this stage, really, it's a lot of we'll be deeply discussing and questioning the current patterns of internationalization of the curriculum in correlation with student learning. And this also will pretty much mean coming up with new possibility, new ways of doing things, moving beyond what Ohio University is doing now, to now talk about the third stage, which is revise and plan. And at this stage, the critical question is, given the new ways of thinking and doing that we would have identified based on Ohio University global strategies, what we would do differently in a specific to internationalize the curriculum. Ohio University had a policy, but looking at that policy, what can we do differently? What can we improve in that policy? That will be specifically the focus of the third stage, which is revise and plan. So once that is identified, once we are able to identify some of the issues or some of the constraint to that process, this will be moving to the act stage. And this stage critically focus on how we know, like, it's pretty much before the evaluation. Really, it helps us see how successful are we in developing the strategy, in developing the policy. And the critical questions is, how will we know if we have achieved our internationalization of the curriculum goals? So this stage is critical because it has to do with developing and implementing strategies to address issues raised in the previous stage. The previous stage, as a reminder, is revise and plan. So this stage is really critical. And then moving on to the last stage, fifth and last stage, which is evaluate. At this point, the question will be guiding the process at this point. Final stage is, to what extent have we achieved our goal of internationalizing the curriculum at Ohio University? Next.
And so thank you, Omar, for that in-depth overview of the framework that you're going to use in designing this policy. And so just thinking about that, and even when we look at the specific definition of what an internationalized curriculum looks like in our research on like what other institutions are already doing. So we've identified like some important aspects of what an internationalized curriculum should have. And in the definition, and even in the framework, and even looking at what other institutions are doing, some of the important things that I think an internationalized curriculum should have, and what we are going to try to incorporate in our policy, include specific learning outcomes, training opportunities and resources, expert faculty and an administration team, collaboration aspects, incentives, and an assessment plan for the overall internationalized curriculum or policy for any institution whatsoever. And so when we look at Ohio University, what is Ohio University doing? Because this strategic framework has been around for quite a while now. And so trying to look at what are they doing, what have they been doing up to this point, and what can we be able to incorporate in our policy that we're going to present to the specific stakeholders. So so far we've looked at 4 institutions: IUPUI, Indiana, Michigan, and Minnesota. University and comparing them to Ohio University. So when you talk about the specific plan that we used to select this university, I just want to mention that, it wasn't easy because a lot of universities, they talk about internationalization of higher education or internationalization of the institution at large, but they do not go specifically into talking about an internationalized curriculum. So in our search for institutions that have an internationalized curriculum, these are some of the institutions that we were able to come across. For now, I know we are going to continue looking for institutions and comparing them to Ohio University, but this criteria that we just looked at was like just making sure that the institutions are not peer institutions of Ohio University. For example, we had Colorado State University, and it's a peer institution of Ohio University, so that was out. And then these other universities are not peer institutions, so we try to compare what their policy looks like and what Ohio University has. So speaking about like learning outcomes as an important aspect of an internationalized curriculum, Ohio University, on their website, they talk about university-wide initiatives of an internationalized curriculum, but they do not have specific learning outcomes that an internationalized curriculum at Ohio University should aim for. And so that is something that we thought is important, that it's important to have in on the website. It's important to like they articulate their specific learning goals and learning outcomes for an internationalized curriculum. And then training opportunities and resources. Ohio University did not have any, they do not speak of any training resources and websites or workshops that are geared towards equipping the instructors with the right knowledge and skills as they go about internationalizing the curriculum. But when you look at all the other institutions that have that, they have websites for like if you want to sign up for workshops, they have specific like links to resources, examples of like an internationalized curriculum, recorded workshops and training webinars where like people are just discussing on how people can go about creating an internationalized curriculum. And I thought like it's important that our policy also talks and discusses the importance of that. And then collaboration aspects. I know in the university-wide initiative and in my discussion with the administrators that I've interviewed for this policy, they talk about there was the COIL project at Ohio University, so Collaborative Online International Learning Initiative that was initiated by the Office of Global Affairs and International Studies. And this is to ensure that instructors on the main campus and regional campuses collaborate and like they can connect their students, like students from regional campuses to students from other campuses. And also in my discussion with LJ, the vice provost, she talked about an ongoing initiative in which they are planning to collaborate with institutions all over the world. So institutions in Asia, institutions in Africa, so that they can be able to link students to other voices out there and enrich like the classroom discussions on different global aspects. So I can say like it's talked about, like the collaboration aspects at Ohio University is being discussed, but they don't have like a specific outline like that you can search for and see. You have to talk to people to know what is going on. When you talk about incentives, there is at Ohio University, in my discussion with administrators, they talked about a grant that was being offered to instructors who can be able to create online courses that targeted an intercultural lens. And so instructors applied to this, and they were able to receive $5,000 grant to be able to create that particular curriculum and online courses. But we have other institutions like IUPUI. They talk about instructors get $7,500 grant to internationalize the curriculum, to bring international aspects into the curriculum. They talk about different ways in which instructors are being motivated. And even at IUP, at PUI, they have a website in which they recognize outstanding professors who are like doing an excellent job at internationalizing the curriculum and actually implementing it in the classroom. So students are being encouraged to nominate their professors, and I feel like that is a very good initiative in terms of incentivizing faculty members and showing them like this is important, we recognize your efforts and we appreciate what you're doing. And then an assessment plan is also important, because if you have learning outcomes, you have to know how to assess them at the end. So how do we assess that you're achieving the goals that we've set? At Ohio University, we didn't find, in our search, we didn't find any assessment plan for this. We're going to continue like talking to multiple administrators who are dealing with this issue and find out like if there's another area they can direct us to find, maybe if there's a rubric or something like that. But different other institutions, Michigan has an assessment plan, IUPUI has an assessment plan, and we think it's also important that Ohio University has an assessment plan. So as we talk about our policy, as we discuss our policy and write about this policy, these are some of the things that we intend to incorporate and we would like to see in the specific policy of an internationalized curriculum at Ohio University. And yep. So Omar, do you have any last minute maybe comments?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Sally, again. But really, I would like to end on this note. Like I raised earlier enough, we do firmly believe that in this era of globalization, internationalizing the curriculum is an inevitable process. And just like any other change, internationalizing the curriculum provides post-secondary institutions with both challenges and opportunities. And this is a process. Universities, university that we have identified, those who have those policies, and you look at how they do, and you look at the process, it's been a continuous process and evaluations and coming back and seeing what works, what is working, what is not working, how can the policy as a whole be adjusted. But it's just important that really that one keep in mind that it's a process, it's a change, it takes time, it comes with both challenges and opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sally. And we are looking forward to your critique, your review. That really, we're looking forward to that. That will help us improve, then take into account some of your suggestions and reviews and into the final product.